Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. Really glad that you have an opportunity to invite and perhaps through this discussion to show enthusiasm, a little bit of education, and some edification. So join us for this next discussion. Stay tuned.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome and thanks for joining us. And it's a pleasure to be able to welcome these fine gentlemen to our studio again today as we had a discussion with Mr. Kerry Lawrence, the CEO, founder, and owner of Primitive Greens and many, many hats. So, Mr. Kerry, good afternoon. How are you, man?
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Dwayne? And good afternoon to your wide listeners there.
And thanks very much for bringing along Cody Whitaker. For many reasons, I enjoy watching. It almost seemed like a documentary. It almost seemed like that piece that should air on, one of those nature channels, showing and showcasing what you do at Primitive Greens. I like the white coat, the science behind it, but the enthusiasm. So, as we get to maybe James in the discussion, at some point I want to ask you again to remind us the interest and the passion in being part of what is not just employing technology, but using farming in a level that may be unprecedented in this region.
Yeah, so I believe we were here sometime last year. So basically we're Primitive Greens and we're an indoor farming company. So we're utilizing 40-foot shipping containers to grow hydroponic lettuce right now. We plan to expand into other leafy greens like kale, basil, things like that, strawberries, mushrooms. So it's just combining the technology for the agriculture sector. Right now, agriculture throughout the world has been lacking innovation. But over the past 5 years or so, you've seen a lot of innovation with bigger scale indoor growing, and we just hope to bring that technology to Cayman and lower the price of food.
And that's the thing, I think, as I look at it from just a general perspective, but even when we think the issues of national security, we see other advanced developed nations, as they will probably term, according to UN standards, using 5-story empty warehouses, rooftops, and doing stuff. But for us in this part of the world, we're playing catch up. Unlike your initiative where we're leading the field. So with that in mind, James Whitaker, you have been, if I might say, one of the pioneers, the champions for renewable energy and solar, a constant voice in the public trying to remind us of the importance of reducing costs. The word like sustainability that's batted about so much that may become a cliche, unfortunately. I commend you for, I don't know if it's the energy, if it's the tenacity. There are other words that come to mind, but they may sound so complimentary, but that's why sometimes it takes. Your dogged determination.
Yeah, well, I started down the road of renewables actually before, I was ever in the solar industry, and before I was certainly a part of the Cayman Renewable Energy Association or its president. I was installing solar energy on my homes that I was building. And so I've always been an advocate of renewables, certainly from the time that we embarked on this as a country back in 2009. And yeah, to your point, it's taken a lot to get here, and we still have so much further left to go. But it's not just me, but there are a small group of very dedicated people that are intent on seeing Cayman transition to renewables and do so in such a way that as many people as possible benefit. And that last part conflicts with,
Yeah.
certain powers that be. And so, it's finding a way. We're all going in the same direction. We're just not on the same road. And so it's about finding ways to make that happen, that ultimately, in the end, everybody can benefit.
I may ask you to, revisit that comment. We all go in the same direction. Because I'm questioning whether we are or not. It'll be good if we are.
Wasn't always the case. When I started this, we weren't going in the same
Okay.
direction. I had many a town hall meeting where, the utilities talking points was sun don't shine at night, wind don't always blow, renewables is not the future. But, once they did their IRP in 2017, then all of their talking points fundamentally shifted. And so, I would describe it as very pro-renewables. They just don't want you to own it.
All right, if it's okay with you guys, 'cause I think sometimes we hear the scripture say, truth will set you free, and put the cards on the table, all sorts of things, but we don't seem to do that. And I'm wondering if we can do it, still be honest, still be respectful, but call a spade a spade. The idea that farming, the little I understand, there are probably many things that impact it. Water, access to water, and then all the stuff to go in, including electricity, and then that translates into pricing. You can build something, but if you can't afford to buy it, what's the point? $1 million car that is absolutely safe, but nobody can afford to use it. It just sits there.
I mean, the idea between this whole initiative, when we sat down and went through all of the pros and cons of it, when we sat down and went through all the pros and cons of it, was simply just to be able to provide food on the island, sustainable food, secure. The next thought we had is, why shouldn't any individual, right, no matter your income, right, be privy to the same type of food? For instance, organic food is more expensive. If you go anywhere to buy any kind of organic food, it's normally way more expensive, right? So we can provide that now, the same cost, cheaper cost. They can bring it in with renewables, with the system we're doing, and have access that no matter what your wages are, you should be able to have access to that type of food. Because right now, nobody's going to go in the supermarket that has low wages and go and pick up organic stuff because it's organic, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to save money, and normally that's the things that you do. You shop and you buy stuff that is really cheaper, but the cheaper stuff isn't always good for you. We know that, right? So when we embarked on this, we said, well, it's about equality also, right? It's about equality, that any individual would be able to purchase good food, clean food, organic product, fresh, right, for a very cheap price. And not only that, with solar, we will be able to fix the price that you know exactly what you're getting, so it would not fluctuate.
Yeah. So as I listen to you, I'm mindful of a couple of things. I want to be guided because sometimes there are those of us that are, idealistic, and we see where something is possible with the effort, a concerted effort. Then there are those who look at it and say, well, that's a lot of philosophy, but it doesn't work. And from what you shared, if we can employ the solar, cost can come down. If you can do it in such a way, then the access ability for the rest of us to quality food is there. Food security is improved. That translates into health and wellness for the rest of us, because now it's healthier for us. That means lower health costs, hopefully reduce sickness, absenteeism.
And I would just like to say, just a quick overview of the project, right? So when I say we covered all bases, I mean every base. So when we sat down, we thought about this and brainstormed over this. We started first with education. How do we get more Caymanian children into farming? We already know that they're not going to want to go out in the hot sun. We already know that they're not going to want to do that stuff because it's not feasible, right? So first of all, we need to get it in the schools. Get it in the schools, we can teach kids how to grow, keep up with the technology, don't leave them behind with the technology, give them jobs. So we came up with a program in order to try to get it in the schools, teach the kids. This project, if we got the yes answer today, we can have it up and running within 14 months. We'll have people trained if we're allowed to go into schools to teach them. We'll have the workforce of Caymanians because they'll be trained, right? And this is not limited to only kids, right? It's also retirees can do it because you're not out in the sun. It's more relaxed situation. So it's well-rounded, right? And then the next thing was, It's organic, totally organic, and we like to call ourselves beyond organic because we spray nothing. So your organic products that you buy in the supermarket are still sprayed, they're just approved sprays. Okay, so we're not using any pesticides, any herbicides, and all our stuff all our seeds are totally organic seeds, true seeds. Then when you look at that point, then you're getting a fresh product, right? Organic product. You have the education tied to that. Then we get into a price point. So in order to get the price point down, and it came up, well, we need solar energy, which is kind of a no-brainer at that point to say this is what actually you need to get the cost down. As James liked to say all the time, the sun isn't going to cost you $1 today and it will tomorrow, right? So obviously at this point now, we can get solar, run the farms, and also keep the price that you always know the price will not fluctuate, right? Because you have to remember now, diesel is expensive, using the engine from CUC is so expensive. The price will fluctuate.
Yeah.
Now we can have a fixed price. We can have a low cost product, right? And we can supply ourselves with foods that we're not importing all this stuff. So now we can get away from plastics, right? Okay, so we can go into different packaging. We're giving jobs, right? And we have a young Caymanian that's embarked on this with ourselves to be able to have this. Now he went to school to be an IT guy, came back and said, this is what we can do. And we came up with this plan, and we have a young Caymanian here that's willing to do this, and we're doing it. All of us here are Caymanians, right? So it's all Caymanians doing this, and we're doing it for Caymanians. So this is a product designed by Caymanians to do for Caymanians in order to carry us further ahead than where we are.
I wonder sometimes, James, if that's part of the challenge. And as Kerry was speaking, I'm mindful of words because I don't know that we have that level of respect for our own, the level of appreciation for the industriousness. As I would say, as I saw the video, I watched it again. There's Cody going through, got his lab coat on, and I'm not trying to be complimentary. If that video had appeared on any screen in any part of the world, you would think here is this genius in this space. It was that quality. It was that inspiring. But yet I wonder if when we see it and it's one of ours, we look at it with less respect.
Well, I think generally speaking across a range of things, there's that general sentiment in the community, right? Crabs in a bucket and all those kinds of things. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think the reality of Primitive and us moving the project forward today, it's less about that. Although to me, that's a benefit, that's a bonus. That should be an added incentive for why you would want to support it. I don't think there's somebody standing in our way saying that we're not going to do that because it's locally led. But certainly there is a general sentiment out there that outside is always better type of thing, and I've experienced that myself. So I mean, I know it's a real thing. But I think in this specific case, there are specific issues as to necessarily why it isn't hasn't gone forward, and just so that the listeners know, the project is up and running, so it's in its beta testing phase. So you talk about theory. Well, for 2 years now, the business has been up and running. The concept is proving. People can come there, see it, touch it, feel it, and taste it. Right. So it's not conceptual whatsoever in that regard. What we realized early on as we were sitting down working on the business model is that what you need to provide food security is energy security, right? So even if, let's say, just connected to CUC's power lines, well, in the event of a hurricane, when those power lines are gone for weeks or months, like in Hurricane Ivan, well, all the food would die. You don't have food security. That's when you need the food the most, right? So you need what we call a microgrid. You need the ability to be able to produce your own power and have redundancy and resiliency above and beyond just grid power. That's problem number one. Problem number two is cost, right? So, right now you're paying, 35 cents CI, almost 40 cents kilowatt hour US. I mean, that's just, it's high. But when you look at the crops that we have to grow, and the range of crops that we're capable of growing and supplying, you would have to basically sell it far above the cost of the imported food. And of course, then you can't sell it. I mean, the people aren't going to buy strawberries for $30 a bag, right? So, you need to be able to drive the cost down. So we looked at, okay, what is the scale of the business in order to supply 100% of the produce that we can produce to the market at or below the cost of the imported food, right? So that gives you one metric. And then what does that price of energy need to be in order for you to sell that food at that price? And so, the only way to get there is through renewables, and the way that we want to get there, obviously, is through clean energy. But we can build a microgrid, drive down the cost, and be able to supply the farm with the cost of the energy that it needs. Now, the rub is there's two factors there, right? There's how much power you need, but then what scale do you need to build that system in order for the cost of that microgrid? Because we're not just talking about solar panels on a roof. You're talking about floating solar, which is more expensive to make that hurricane Cat 5 rated.
The reason we went with floating solar too, right, is because we're concerned about environment at the bottom line, right? So if you go with floating solar, we're not clearing any property, right? It's an existing place that nobody's using, and why not? Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but we're not losing habitat, right, in order to create something. So we're doing something that's organic and that's beneficial. Why go and clear down a whole bunch of property that's good land they can use? And land is a scarcity, right? So this is land that has been dug out and used, and we're going to repurpose it.
Yeah. All right. So when we come after the break, let's maybe revisit the project. Remind our listeners exactly what it is, where it is, and where we are now. And then see how there's maybe a better buy-in, if anything, from the rest of us. All right, join us after the break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its customers and the motoring public of wastewater infrastructure upgrade works along West Bay Road, adjacent to Burger King and Kamana Way. Preliminary activities will take place on Tuesday, 7th March, with the main works beginning on Monday, 13th March. These works are anticipated to last for several weeks. During this time, access to the southbound lane along West Bay Road will be somewhat, but not entirely, restricted. Water Authority Cayman and its contractor will maintain two-way traffic throughout. Traffic signs will be in place in the general vicinity of the works. All motorists are asked to drive with caution to ensure their own safety as well as the safety of the Water Authority and its contractor's staff. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of its customers and the public as it upgrades its wastewater infrastructure and apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
Oh 5.3 Breeze FM live. Now it's an Man Bushman represented for 105.3 Breeze FM.
Hey, this is DJ Lynn. Join me Sundays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Breeze 105.3 for Beach and Reggae Sundays. Whether you're out in a boat, in the backyard, or simply on the beach catching some sun, it's the perfect way to unwind for the weekend as the sun sets on our beautiful Caribbean Sea. Join us this Sunday from 2 p.m. on Breeze 105.3 Beach and Reggae Sundays.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Kerry Lawrence, Cody Whitaker together with James Whitaker, and the idea of melding innovation in farming, looking at food security with renewable energy, cost containment. I see economies of scale. As we go into the break, though, James, you were sharing with us, this almost seems like one of those things that maybe something the young people used to say at one time, a no-brainer. But I don't know. Maybe it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice if the policies and the regs were very clear, and the regulator themselves had a very well thought out process for innovation. But we've had to work with what we have in front of us. And, to Kerry's point, when we applied for this, we studied the situation pretty heavily, and we looked to cover all the bases. So what I was saying prior to the break is that in order for us to provide the food security, we knew we had to provide energy security. That's one box. The other box is you also have to lower the cost. Well, to lower the cost and to cover the cost of a microgrid, especially a floating solar microgrid, you have to have enough economies of scale to hit the price you need to sell the food for the price you need to sell the food. And what people need to understand is different crops require different levels of energy and different costs. So, lettuce might take X, but strawberries might take 10X that in terms of the time to grow. And the time to grow means you're paying 10X more for the cost, right? So to grow the range of crops that you need, we knew we basically had to hit a certain price point, and we had to build a system that was big enough to drive the price down to that level. Well, once you build a system that was big enough to drive the price down to that level, because microgrids are expensive, floating solar is more expensive than traditional solar. Once you do that, well, actually the facility is only using about a third of the energy on a given day, right? So what will we do with the excess? So now we've got the system size, we've got the cost down to where we need to be able to sell the food, but now what would you do with the excess? Well, in Cayman, you can only do one thing by law. You can only sell it to CUC. I couldn't sell it to the hotel next door, or I couldn't sell it to the residential neighborhood that's right next door. I can't do that because by law, when it comes to homes and businesses, CUC has exclusive monopoly to sell. So the only person that you could sell the access to is CUC. Well, the entity that has to approve that is off reg, right? And so this is where the project is now, is that we're still sitting here waiting on formal approval of the project.
Almost 1 year in.
And it's almost a year in, right? And, time is money in business. And it's quite frankly urgent that we move this project forward. And quite frankly, there's not a single governmental minister or person that we've met, or a governmental department, that is not 100% in favor of the project, but yet here we sit, right?
So is it then, as I listen to you, we accuse governments of red tape and bureaucracy and all the things, the hoops you jump through. But it seems like there's something else afoot.
Another thing, Dwayne, I want to add in there. When we did this project, we didn't go into government and say, listen, we want your financing, we want property from you. We didn't say anything like that, right? We simply asked for support. And what the support means? The support means, let's cut the red tape. Let's make this thing happen, because these are the bases that it covers, right? So it literally covers all the bases, and I want Cody to speak to that, all the bases of all the policies, the off-reg policy, national energy policy, the UN's policy, and by the way, that's what government use into their UN policy, right? Okay, they just had a food policy from agriculture come out that they were trying to educate people about. Same policy, and we're covering all the bases. Right, so if we're covering all these bases in these policies, right, and we're ticking all these boxes, what's the issue, right? Okay, so what I want anybody to think about it and fathom what is the issue with this. Why we can't cut away the red tape? Why we can't make authority do? And not saying to break any laws, because that's not what we're asking them to do, right? I'll make that clear. We're not asking them to break any laws or override anything. What we need them to do is look at the laws that are in place and go by those laws, right? And I'll have Cody speak to what I just brought up.
Yeah, so to touch on the project, when we were first, so I graduated in December 2019. I was coming back, deciding what I wanted to do. So discussing with Kerry, he said, whatever you want to do, we can go and do it, and I'll fully support you. So when we were discussing the project, we wanted something that touched all aspects of Cayman. So we got into the farming. Farming in Cayman hasn't changed for a long period of time. The average age of the Caymanian farmer, I believe, is close to 60 years old. So in the next couple of years, there won't be that many farmers. It'll just be the younger generation. But the younger generation wouldn't take up farming as a profession, mainly because a lot of hard work, not a lot of money to be made. So what could we do about that? So through research, we found this type of indoor farming, and it was just to decide what we wanted to do and how big we wanted to do it. So we started off with the containers because we can just scale them. So if we need more produce, just get an extra container and just add it on. So it's very modular in that sense. And you can also change what you're growing in there as well. So once we started doing that, we said, okay, let's see the UN goals. How can we make our project hit the UN goals? Ending hunger, sustainable development, affordable and clean energy, different things like that. Okay, we did that. Then we looked at, okay, let's look at school curriculums, UCCI, ICCI, let's see what they want to achieve for their university, etc. Added things into to make our project fit into that as well. Looked at the government policies that are put in place, said, okay, we need to hit that. So it was at a point we would find one or two things wrong that we needed to add, but we've gotten to the point now where there's no stone left unturned, and we literally can't add anything really more to the project to make it this type of innovation within Cayman, but also in the Caribbean.
And I want to maybe ask that, geez, but before I do, we keep thinking we'll come back to the notion a profit is not with the honor savings in the country. So we'll talk about that in a second. Picking up on what Cody shared. But the way the law is written now, we got to generate excess, we got to get approval. It can only be sold to CUC. All right. To your knowledge, and I don't mean to put you in a spot, A, are there other jurisdictions where you can sell directly to entities? Or B, if there isn't, is that something that would be feasible in the Cayman landscape?
So the answer to both is yes. I mean, it's feasible here in Cayman, and it's feasible in other jurisdictions. We've been to Turks and Caicos, for example. We're quite excited about the expansion into Turks and Caicos, and the government there is fairly supportive of it. They don't have an off-reg, which makes things a little bit easier. So, you're really dealing with the government and the utility. And, we're proposing something that, we think is a win-win for everybody. And so far, all of the feedback out of Turks is positive. And we're in the process literally right now of going through the regulatory requirements that they do have in order to get that in front of their cabinet for approval. So we're doing that right now as we speak. Here in Cayman, there is a pathway for it as well. But again, you need the regulator to make some decisions. And so one of the feedback comments that we got when we made the presentation initially at OffReg was, well, this has to be competitively tendered. Now, we had already gone through, as a business, we had already gone through all of the laws and regulations in trying to understand what our regulatory path had to be in order to get approved. And so the reason I say that is, we'd already addressed that, internally for us. And so we pointed out to OffReg that, if they really look at it, the comment doesn't really make sense. This is an innovation project, and Primitive needs, in whatever way, shape, or form, lower cost energy to provide food at less than the cost of the imports. Fundamental number one. And so, we would build this system, but we would have to build it in order to cover the cost of that system and provide the energy at the price we need. We'd have to build that system larger, so we have to do something with the excess. As I alluded to before, the only person that we could sell it to is CUC. Well, if you flip that on its head and you say, well, you got to competitively tender it, well, I just pointed out, only one entity in the world has a license in Cayman to sell energy. So who would sell energy to Primitive Greens? CUC. Well, if you're the regulator saying that this needs to be competitively tendered, and you put a tender, who's the only person who can answer the tender? CUC. So please explain to me what competition there is in having a tender where only one entity in the world can answer the tender to sell us the power. Doesn't make any sense. Right. So that's part of it. And again, we've pointed that out to OffReg at our presentation, and we've offered to come back and do that again if we need to. The issue is, also, what is this definition of what is utility scale? Because by law, OFREG does have responsibilities to tender utility scale projects, right? OFREG also has some responsibilities about innovation projects and what they can approve as well. But there is this requirement about utility scale projects. The issue is this is not a utility scale project, right? The definition of utility scale project in the National Energy Policy, which is the only document where you'll find a definition, basically talks about selling 100% of the energy back to the utility. Well, we're not selling 100% of the energy back to the utility, so we don't meet that definition. We're only selling 2/3 of the energy back on a given day, and as the system and the facility expands, we would end up using more of that energy we produce and selling less to the utility. So we don't meet that definition. And furthermore, what is the only utility scale project that we have in Cayman? It's 5 megawatts. It's the Bordentown Solar Farm. And so there's nothing in policy, law, or regulation that the regulator can point to say that this is a utility scale project, but there's things that we can point to that says it absolutely is not.
Right. I don't want to point fingers, right? But I genuinely want to understand. It's not because economics is involved or it's technical issues, but sometimes you just pointed out something that seems to be a bit of an anomaly in how the law either interpreted, applied, or regulated. So is this a case then of lack of will, right? Political. We have, and again, from the governance perspective, we have the elected government, the ministers, the cabinet. We have a regulator, which is construed under a law, and something isn't happening to benefit the country. Who's responsible, and how is that directive sort of fixed?
Yeah, I mean, the responsibility is a bit shared. So, I mean, usually the talking point is the buck stops at the top, and I guess that stops with the premier. But the premier, again, is very enthusiastic about the project.
Okay.
So the reason I say that is there are things in law that your regulator has to do.
Okay.
Right? So the government, with not just, OFREG, but SEMA and other,
This is governance at all,
right?
Yeah.
So there's things that they have to do, and there's things that are in their legal remit to be able to do, right? Where the issue comes in is that if they're not doing those things,
right? Okay.
And if the things that they should be doing is in line with official government policy, which, by the way, the public authorities law, not a regulation or a policy, a law says, Section 49, that they have to follow official government policy. So if we're doing things that are aligned with official government policy and they're not making decisions as a regulator that they should be making, then cabinet can direct them not to do a specific thing, but to follow the policy and thus follow the law. So, there are cabinet directives that we think could happen. But again, this would all be a lot simpler if OFREG would just make a decision and tell us in writing what that decision is and why they've made the decision. And so, we, in the feedback that we've gotten in the presentations that we've made, we've addressed the issues about tendering, about scale, why it needs to be 3 megawatts and not technically 3.1 megawatts and not 4 or 2. We've dealt with all these issues, but we have not been able to get an answer from the regulator.
What I want to say, right? This is, and I mentioned this a while ago, right? This is almost a year now.
Yeah.
Okay, going into almost a year now. Okay, so we paying these people, to make decisions. Okay, that's what they're there for. That's their job. Okay, they're in OFREG to regulate and make decisions. So in a whole, forget about this project. Right? How much decisions OFREG actually made on solar that has benefited this country or this island? That's what we're paying these people for, non-performance. Right? Okay, we're paying them big figures to do non-performance. Okay? Because they haven't pushed solar anywhere as it's supposed to be. You have to ask yourself why. Right? They have a project in front of them which aligns with all of their policies. You can read their policies. Right? Align straight with their policies, and non-performance and non-decision. And we're paying these people to warm seats. Right? That's what we're paying them for.
But there seems, if you wish, at the point, Cody, you can jump in, but it seems to me that there are a number of things here that potentially could be discouraging.
And before Cody jump in, right?
Yeah.
He's a young Caymanian, right? Okay? That come into every meeting with us,
Yeah.
Okay? And I want him to expound on how he feels coming back from college as a young Caymanian, looking at other Caymanians who's in power, by the way, who can make these decisions, by the way, according to policy without breaking any laws, right? For this young Caymanian to move and benefit all of Cayman. Not just him or James or myself, all of Cayman, right? okay, and sit down and listen to the bureaucracy, right, and the non-performance that we have to pay for.
This is it. I mean, I used the word discouraging, but Cody, if you're inclined, share with us one.
Yeah, it really is disheartening sometimes. Some of the meetings we go in, you know, I'm hearing the same thing over and over again. We go into a meeting on Monday, come back on Thursday, the same comments again, and it's things that make sense to me and everybody else in the room besides one or two people, and it's just holding us up. So maybe some of my friends know, but I am a government scholarship recipient, so government paid for me to go to school, get my degree. I have to come back and do something, and this project, I couldn't think of anything better for me to do in terms of giving back to the community, giving back to the government for what they've invested in me. So to face this from a government entity is really, really disheartening. And
I think that's also very important to know, right? Because there's a lot of narratives that get painted, right? Oh, well, you're trying to do stuff without competition, you know. What rules do they have on the innovation? You know, you're trying to drive up costs, right? We're talking about this, what we're talking about in terms of selling this excess energy. We're talking about selling this excess energy at less than 12 cents. The cost of diesel right now is like 22 cents. So we're talking about selling clean energy to the grid, to consumers, at half the cost of diesel. Right? And the regulator can't make a decision on that. Right?
Boy, you know, I hope he doesn't mind, right? But remember, Mr. Kurt Tibbetts used to say, "You fish or cut bait," right?
And again, you know, this idea about tendering and that was raised at our thing. We've shown that other than us owning our system and consuming it, if somebody else has to own it and sell it to us, it can only be one other entity. So there can be no competition, right? Innovation in and of itself, that's the reason why it's in the National Energy Policy, and this is important. The reason why we asked them to give us preliminary approval of the project as innovation, as well as the proposed rate, before we went and negotiated a formal PPA with the utility.
Now, define PPA. I noticed.
PPA is a power purchase agreement. So basically, it outlines the terms and conditions at which you're connecting into CUC's grid. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
And so, the cost that we're doing this at, it's important to understand that it's far less right now than the cost of fuel. So there's no desire to sort of increase costs. And from a competition perspective, there's no competition possible. There's two buckets, right? There is we own it, we consume it, we sell you the excess, or somebody sells it to us, but the only person that can sell it to us is CUC, right? And so even if you put out a tender, there's no competition there to be had. So the whole point of the innovation clause in the National Energy Policy that talks about innovation and empowering Ofreg to make decisions on innovation, well, I mean, use the common sense. What is innovation? Innovation is something new, something for the first of its kind. You can't just go out to the market and buy a bunch of it, right? It has never been done before where you've had a floating solar microgrid powering a commercial farm anywhere in the world. This is a first of its kind, right? So we are in uncharted waters here, and this is innovation. And Ofreg, by the way, has told us that this is an innovation project, right? So they've told us that, but the project still hasn't been able to go forward, right? And so with regard to innovation, Ofreg is going to have to understand, and this is one of the things that CREA is pushing for, there has to be a clear path for innovation, because you're not going to always get a situation. If I come out with a fusion generator tomorrow, and I decide that I want to do it here in Cayman, and it's my proprietary, and it's the first of its kind, how are you going to go out to bid on that? All right. It's mine. It's proprietary, right? And so there are going to be, not in all cases, but there are going to be in many cases for innovation that you can't go out to tender. And so there has to be a pathway for innovation. And Ofreg and Ofreg management have been talking about things like regulatory sandboxes from the time I started doing this. It's been almost 10 years they've been talking about sandboxes and innovation, but they haven't done anything about it.
All right, let's talk more about it. Let's join us after the break.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
This Saturday and Sunday, the Health Services Authority's Accident and Emergency A&E walk-in entrance will be temporarily relocated through the front atrium entrance to accommodate updates. A&E patients are advised to use the 2 parking areas at the front of the hospital. Signage will be in place to direct patients. A reminder, masks are still required at all HSA locations. Turning to international news now, the International Criminal Court said on Friday it issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for war crimes because of his alleged involvement in abductions of children from Ukraine. The court said in a statement that Putin is allegedly responsible for the war crime of unlawful deportation of population, children, and that of unlawful transfer of population, children, from occupied areas of Ukraine to the Russian Federation. It also issued a warrant Friday for the arrest of the Commissioner for Children's Rights in the Office of the President of the Russian Federation on similar allegations. Officials are monitoring the cleanup of a leak of 400,000 gallons of radioactive water from a local nuclear power plant in Minnesota. Xcel Energy, the utility company that runs the plant, said the spillage was fully contained on site and has not been detected beyond the facility. State officials said there was no immediate public health risk. The leak was first discovered in late November, but state officials did not notify the public until Thursday. And the former Minneapolis police officer serving time for the 2020 murder of George Floyd pleaded guilty Friday to 2 counts of tax evasion. Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aiding and abetting, failing to file tax returns to the state of Minnesota for the years 2016 and 2017. Chauvin appeared in a Minnesota court via Zoom from a federal prison in Arizona. He was standing in a room and paced around before the hearing began. Chauvin and his now ex-wife were charged with multiple counts of underreporting their income and failing to file tax returns. His ex-wife pleaded guilty earlier to 2 counts. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
When you have a sports or fitness-related injury, trust the expertise of the HSA Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic to get you back in the game. Our internationally trained and certified physicians specialize in sports traumatology, sports medicine, pain management, and orthopedic surgery. For treatment of common injuries such as tendonitis, arthritis, tennis elbow, rotator cuff, or knee tears, schedule a consultation with the Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic at Smith Road Medical Center by calling 949-8600 or visit hsa.ky for more information.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born in Watering Place, Cayman Brac, on the 8th day of July 1936, Captain Fred Elman Scott was the 5th child born to Nalio and Vera Scott. Captain Scott was a quiet-natured child who liked going on the bluff with his grandfather Oscar Brown, swimming every Saturday evening and playing cricket down where Miss Alamay's house sits now. He was very studious at Creek Elementary School and did very well under the tutelage of his favorite teacher, Miss Isley Connolly in BE. Following the tragic death of his father at sea, at age 14 he left school to work with Arnold Foster to support his family. In 1953 he joined his first ship, the Beretta, a local cargo vessel, signing on as deck boy, working his way up to bosun. From 1953 until 2006, some 52 years, Captain Scott made his living working off the seas.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Barry's Golden Jerk, the Cayman Brac sensation, ranked the #1 restaurant in Cayman Brac by TripAdvisor and home of the authentic jerk. Barry's Golden Jerk, serving large portions of the best jerk chicken and pork. Open Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday near the airport, or call 917-6713. Barry's Golden Jerk. It's simply better.
Look at you, listening to the radio, tuning in, getting stuff done. Total doer. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're getting your oil changed, or grabbing some chicken. Maybe you're doing something that's nobody's business but yours. Hey, that's cool. We're all doing something. Now you can join a whole new community of doers doing more on findyellow.com. With custom search, local experts, and trusted reviews, whatever you're doing, get it done on findyellow.com.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us, and thanks to Kara Lawrence, together with James Whitaker and Cody Whitaker. We're not just talking food sustainability and food security, or agriculture, or innovation, or sustainable energy. This seems to be something that is, I think, Cody, you put it right, touches and concerns the lives of every Caymanian. The young Caymanian who may see farming as what it is, really cool, really essential, to that innovative entrepreneur who might be looking at something to be a trendsetter, pioneer. As we continue discussion on tour, we have a caller joining us. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, man.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, good afternoon to you guys.
Good afternoon.
Okay, well, I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, I read in the newspaper that there was a shortage of coconuts around the world. I was wondering if you all have any plans on planting coconuts on your farm?
Well, our farm, in case you missed it, right? So we can't grow mangoes, coconuts, but our farm is concentrating on stuff that we have to import here. And that's actually what we're going after. So things we can grow stuff like strawberries, blueberries, romaine lettuces, carrots, radishes, stuff that you generally can't grow here with a temperature-controlled environment. That is what we're really looking to grow. Mm-hmm. So we haven't ventured into growing in the ground because they're indoor farms to grow any stuff like mangoes and coconut trees. So it's not that type of farm.
Okay. Well, I was being that there was a shortage around the world, I think that is something that should be encouraged also here on the island, even if it means exporting them.
Yeah, well, there was a gentleman who had put that initiative to government way back when relative to coconuts. Maybe I'll reach out to him again to see whether he's willing to come on and talk about it. But good suggestion, and certainly as our guest here, their approach from that perspective is looking at things that we can grow here that are imported. Anything else you want to share?
Well, yeah, I wanted to speak. Go ahead.
Sorry, Ms. Lawrence?
You go ahead.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Mo.
All right.
But what we are trying to do, right, okay, is when you look at climate change, when you look at food shortages around the world, so we've really pinpointed stuff that we can do, right? And not only to provide vegetables and strawberries and stuff like that, but we can also provide fodder to feed livestock. So we're not looking to raise livestock, right? But we can produce fodder to feed livestock to enable farmers that want to raise livestock to be able to do so cost effective and provide them with good food that they'll be able to do that with their livestock. Because I mean, we import all that stuff now to feed our livestock here, and we can produce it here. Sustainable, we can produce it here all the time. And therefore now you may have more farmers that are Caymanians that want to get into livestock and will be able to do that.
Okay, well, I have something else I need to mention concerning you all speaking about off-rigging CUC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the new 25-year contract was signed with CUC on behalf of the people of the Cayman Islands, I don't think it was right for anyone, especially someone who was working there just before election, wins the election, and has anything to do with the new 25-year contract on behalf of the people of the Cayman Islands. And it's my personal belief, and I hope this situation doesn't occur now with our water bills, but it's my personal belief that shareholders have a lot to say when it comes to our bills. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks very much, too. And, again, it's interesting. At some points we talk more about it, you know. You reference blueberries and strawberries, and maybe for many of us, we would equate them as being able to be grown in other climates, not necessarily here. So the benefits of that. Cody, if it's okay, unless James,
no, I was just going to touch on what he mentioned last. So the last exclusive contract CUC signed was in 2008 for their T&D system. So in 2028, which is 4.5 years from now, that license is up. Now, that license will no doubt be renewed, but myself and many others will be lobbying that is never again made an exclusive contract, and that's the issue. Mm-hmm. Right? So CUC has exclusivity on selling energy to our homes and businesses. You know, you certainly renew the contract, and you know it's their T&D system. But the good part about renewables and the advancement of technology is that, you know, whether it's things like community solar or microgrids and all these other things, there's things that can be done beneficially for residential consumers and commercial entities that doesn't necessarily have to infringe on CUC's T&D system. A lot of it is beneficial if they collaborate and do it, but it doesn't have to be. So the only thing I would say to that gentleman is it's coming up here in about another 4 years. No doubt CUC will be lobbying hard to renew it as an exclusive contract, and we will be there lobbying to make sure that it isn't.
You know, something to consider, the public being involved and engaged and sufficiently informed, because who knows, you know, it could be an effort to renew it early. All right.
And I just want to add this in there, and James can correct me if I'm wrong, right? The more people that put solar into the system, right? CUC has to distribute it, right? Okay. Is it an issue? It's CUC distributing the electricity instead of trying to generate it themselves? Do they not charge us on our bill anyway for the electricity that they're distributing, whether it's solar or not?
Yeah, CUC is an integrated monopoly, right? So they are generation and transmission and distribution, right? So, you know, I'm not going to speak for CUC. I can give you my personal opinion, right? I think the issue, and this is not just CUC, it's most utilities. The issue is they want control, how it happens, who's involved, what technology is deployed, when it's deployed. They want control, right? And they want this done at a pace that they're very comfortable with. As you well know, technology is often disruptive. Renewables is disruptive. Energy storage is disruptive. anytime you have these big entrenched entities, special monopolies, they don't want to be forced to move at the pace that technology is advancing, right? So yes, to answer your question, they're responsible for T&D, and we should all be able to provide that power. And you can provide that power technologically today with energy storage and solar in ways that you can have very, very high penetration rates of renewables without making the grid unstable. But that's usually one of their arguments is, no, Kerry, you can't have it at your house because you can make the grid unstable. I've been watching them make that argument since we had 1% renewable energy on the grid. Mm-hmm. You can go to islands where there's 35 and 40% renewable energy. They've been arguing about the grid stability issue since we've got 1%. They're still arguing about it at 3%. They've done reports that show far more renewable energy can go on than they've always said over the years can be there. And quite frankly, the reality is there is a grid capacity limit for how much intermittent renewables we can sell back to the grid. But the responsibility to make sure that you're planning and implementing upgrades to the grid so that capacity to increase is on CUC and off-reg. So the very entities that are telling you, no, you can't have it, capacity, is the same entities that are responsible for the capacity and have failed to do so, right? And so this is part of the problem. It's always the wolf guarding the hen house with them, right? And so once they cease to be an integrated monopoly and they cease to have these exclusive license, I suspect you'll find they'll be far more collaborative with consumers, large and small, big commercial operations and small consumers than they are now. Right now, they're dictating too. And that's what we need to change. We need collaboration versus being dictated to.
The funny thing is, right, so we putting solar in our house and people trying to put solar on to better their lives, right, in Cayman. Now, I seem to remember after Ivan, we the Cayman people paid for those poles and those distribution lines, right, that we asking them to hook up to you. Okay? Government gave them permission to tag on to our bills because they were not insured. It wasn't feasible for them to be insured, right? Okay? For us Cayman people to pay for those poles and lines that were down, okay? Now we begging them to hook up to it.
Well, they'll tell you it's our grid.
And then if you go and say, okay, I'm going to hook up my house and I want James to hook all solar up to my house, okay, well, you can't get a CUC meter. I'm not going to be back up for you. You understand where I'm coming from?
Well, yeah, but you also do have to keep in mind, right, that again, there's so much intermittent, i.e. just solar, so no energy storage that can go onto the grid, right? And you got to increase the capacity of the grid to be able to handle that intermittency. But if you add energy storage to your house, not only can you dictate exactly how much energy, so if CUC says, look, my transformers, my grid in this location can't handle no more than X, well, those energy storage systems can deliver just that X that they're asking for. The rest of it, however, is the issue. So if you got 20 kilowatts on your roof and CUC says we'll only take 10, with the technology today they can just take the 10 and you can keep the other 10. No, but the rest, what you're consuming now takes away from their profits. And therein lies the rub that they don't want to talk about. So they'll talk about grid stability, all of this kind of stuff. But once you peel that onion, it ultimately comes down to revenues. I would tell you to go back and look at their press release, their joint press release for the off-reg last year. Right at the bottom, it says, concerns about the utility losing revenue. Now, do we want a utility that doesn't have revenue and is bankrupt? Absolutely not. But we can't use their willingness to protect their existing revenue to stop the advancement of renewables for consumers, and that's what's happening.
Right? Will they really lose money, though, if they can just distribute electricity? They can distribute electricity. Would it really be a case? Well, granted, they'll have to distribute the electricity that is provided, right? Okay, so there'll still be an entity that'll be able to do that.
Yeah. We have a call online. You take the call?
Sure.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you today?
I am healthy, handsome. I mean, I can give you some people to call and they'll even tell you even better things, but thank God. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, first of all, I'm not going to hide it. Cody is my son. This is Gary.
You should be proud of him, man.
Thank you. And I'm not speaking on his behalf. I think he'll do a better job than I do, so. But I'm just here to support him. I know they've been going through rough times, and they don't want to call it all as it is, but I think time now to put the boxing gloves on. Obviously, with off-reg, I think instead of them dictating to CUC is dictating to off-reg, so you have the tail wagging the dog. right? The government themselves don't have the cojones to actually step up and put some pressure on. I think sometime in April last year, the premier went to the Miami Caribbean Renewals of Energy Forum, and he jumped up unexpectedly and said that going forward, the government themselves would be seeking passive ownership of the new solar or other renewable energy facilities. Where are we now on this? Obviously, almost a year later, again, no talk, no action. All right, so I'm calling upon the mayor and the park government to step up and do something. Yeah, earlier you said we was asking about whether the Caymanian doing it, and yes, they probably said, James said no. I honestly do believe it's because it's a young Caymanian doing it. Just put little Barry McLean in perspective. They've been beating him around the boys, all the like Senate and Trinidad, just trying to qualify to be a Caymanian helicopter pilot. And up until now, no government has taken it upon them and really pushed to ensure that this kid succeeds. Send them around the place, I think, is more detrimental than trying to help him. It's just dragging the process out. But then how we ain't talking about that. But that's just one instance is plenty more. CUC's response to what Gene said out the other day. And if you read it, right, it says, CUC is therefore keen to participate in the utility scale competitive bid process to be conducted by off-reg, and I hope that it will soon be released. What I'm reading, is that obviously as soon as that comes out, they'll be competing. So why would you want to release more than 3 megawatts here a couple of months? Put all your ducks in a row. When it rolls out, you're first on the line, right? So I think it's time for the government to decide what the purpose of all reg is and start, dragging their feet. Every time you call one minister, one politician, or you can hear, well, my hands are tied. Come the next couple of months, I hope their mouths are tied, not just their hands when it comes election time, because not everybody will forget. So, I don't intend to take over the show, but for 10 years, over 10 years, off-reg has been in existence. They had solar, and in November, last year, they said, off-reg and CUC needs to get these reports. I haven't heard anything back on the reports. It's obvious they're in, but why are they not releasing them? Is it some big secret? Obviously it is. If not, why are you paying off-reg to get a report if the public are not aware of what's going on? So I'm calling out Premier Panton and the Deputy Premier City and tell them to step up to the plate, because a lot of things go on the cover and go past here by the wayside, but I don't intend to sit and just make them take advantage of young Caymanians trying to succeed. I will go in the middle of Georgetown. I'm prepared to do it. I can go north, but I have no problem with that. And I'll block the middle of Georgetown. Right? I can get somebody's attention. Then they keep ignoring and their hands are tied, the lips are tied now. So it's time for them to step up to the plate and decide what they're going to do. The people in off-reg need to step up and stop collecting money on the false pretense. Alright? I think by now the anti-corruption department should have investigated them for collecting money on the false pretense. They're not doing their job.
I guess that comment that you share relative to action and inaction, you paid, is something to question. Any more comments, Mr. Licker?
No, I'll leave it. I'll listen on.
All right.
But I just remind them I ain't going away right now.
Okay. Yeah, thanks very much, man. And I think this is where, if you wish to add anything else, I just want to read one message from one of our listeners.
The only thing I would say to his comments is, although I say in this particular instance, I don't think it's sort of a locals bias. I agree with him that exists. I've seen it in my industry. I watched them put out an RFP for this battery energy storage system that we're installing here now. And my company and Tesla, who's a multi-billion-dollar company, were planning to bid on that project. And as Tesla's representative here in Cayman, we were the bid respondent. And that bid process, and we brought the issue up to off-reg, and they chose not to change it. It said that the bid respondent had to have a net worth of $50 million to even put in a bid. Now tell me which local companies got a net worth of $50 million, even though the entity that we were doing the project with is a multi-billion-dollar company. They told us, we're not planning on bidding on this directly, we're bidding on it through you as our representative. So there's all sorts of things like that that's going on where local companies just are excluded. So it's not that it's not a real thing. I just think that the barriers here are more of the regulator not wanting to make a decision and looking for reasons to not make it as opposed to reasons to make it.
Well, the discussion seems to allow many to draw other inferences. As you said, that we go back to old adverts for jobs where, looking for a person in the file room but got to speak 5 languages, have a master's qualification, and the salary is $6 a week. Only Caymanians need to apply. So it potentially, from what you're saying, can I read this though? One of our listeners shares it. Says, "Good afternoon. My question is, what is the difference with your guest's request for approval for the solar farm versus what was approved previously with the solar farm in Borden Town?"
Okay.
And then there's a second part, but answer that part first. Okay, all right. And then also it says, if it's Cayman and CUC's plan to have 70% of electricity from renewable sources by 2037, then why won't your gas project be approved?
That's a good question.
I didn't read it, okay? I just read it. And I was careful to
The answer to the second one is very simple. Common sense, not very common these days. But he or she makes a very good point. In regards to the difference between what we're proposing here versus what's in the Borden Town solar farm. So what's being proposed here is an innovation project. And if you look under the National Energy Policy, there's certain powers that are stated that the regulator will have to approve innovation projects. And so what the Borden Town solar farm was ground mount solar is not innovation. So that kind of project is utility scale. 100% of that energy is being sold back to the utility. So if you look at the National Energy Policy, the definition of utility scale is selling back 100% of the energy. So that is a straightforward utility scale project that is built out in the field using, well-entrenched technology that's 50 years old, selling all of that power back to the utility. Whereas this is an innovation project that is not selling 100% of its power back to the utility. It's initially selling about 2/3 back, and over time that may get less and less as the facility expands. And then in addition to that, it's not just intermittent solar. So the Borden Town solar farm, if cloud cover comes over right now, that power and that energy drops off, and it stops providing that power or reduces that power that it's giving to the grid. In our scenario, we're floating the solar in a lake as opposed to putting it on the ground, which would be the biggest and first of its kind, depending on how quickly we can do it in the Caribbean. And then on top of that, that's connected to what we call a microgrid. So you have energy storage systems that basically, if a cloud comes over, it's not going to affect primitive greens because the energy goes from the lake and the solar into the batteries, and then the batteries basically run the farm. And so it doesn't matter if clouds come over, or it doesn't matter if a hurricane rolls through.
Or at night.
Right, or even at night, all of that energy is stored, and so the power with a microgrid is constant, whereas with the Borden Town solar farm, it's purely intermittent. So you got one that's just standard utility scale intermittent power, and you have one that is an innovative microgrid where it's about self-consumption and only selling back the excess energy.
What I want to throw out there, right, Dwayne, the government just paid. We're just reading this article here. PwC, $89,000, right, to contract to help part with the sustainability goals. Okay, so they're gonna been paid to lay out something for they to reach the sustainability goals in Cayman Islands. So we have a project that reach a bunch of those goals already by Caymanians, right? They didn't have to pay for it, just support. Okay, it's here. We meet all those goals. Cody can mention some of those goals that we meet in the same thing that they're talking about, the same thing that PwC is looking at, right? we had this project up and going, and in the process now, better part of a year sitting down collecting dust in a non-performance entity offering, right, for a decision that we can't get, right? You can mention some of those goals that in that we have that align with.
If it's okay, Cody, can I ask you to mention those after the break?
Yep.
All right, let's pause, take this break. When we come back, we invite you to call and share and see how we can, contribute to make it more sustainable. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway we're introducing the new boneless hot sub.
Say what?
The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our Custom Closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
The Cayman Brac Agriculture Show is back, 17 years strong. Saturday, March 18th from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the agriculture grounds of Songbird Drive on the Bluff. Tons of fun for the entire family. Animals, antiques, art, and craft displays. Raffle tickets are $10 and include entry. Travel from Grand Cayman is a breeze, with extra same-day flights on Cayman Airways. Check them out on Facebook at Cayman Brac Agriculture Show. Don't miss the 17th annual Cayman Brac Agriculture Show, Saturday, March 18th.
Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center invites you to join them on Sunday 19th March for their 3rd annual Turtle Crawl 5K Walk and Run. All funds raised from the event will support the conservation of green sea turtles in the Cayman Islands. So come on out and show your support. The 3rd annual Turtle Crawl 5K Walk and Run, Sunday 19th March. Learn more and register now at www.turtlecrawl.ky. Proudly sponsored by CUC, Cayman National, Walkers, Rotary Central, Advanced Fire Services, Gatorade, and Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Mr. Carol Lawrence, Cody Whitaker, together with James Whitaker, for sharing with us. And it's inspiring, on one hand, to see that industriousness, the innovativeness, that resolve and resilience that is within the Cayman psyche. But not just to Cody's sort of perspective, but as a parent, as someone who I would consider to be young and innovative and industrious and entrepreneur. It's kind of discouraging. I mean, how can you tell your students and your children, here's the future? How can you speak as a society that we need to be sustainable in our approach? We need to look at food security. And yet, why, Cody, I commend your persistence. I hope the words of young child Anthony Powell Jr. Don't bear fruit when he speaks to us and says there's no very little hope in the future for young Caymanians because we're not providing any for them. So thank you for being courageous and tenacious, my friend.
Thank you as well.
Wow, man. A prophet is not without honor to say, save in his own country. Wow.
So basically to speak on what my dad was talking about. So I'm 25 now, turned 26 in April. So he's been there since I was born. So he's seen what I'm going through. You know, some of the stuff I don't tell him what's going on, but I'll tell him here and there. So he's just getting frustrated by it simply because it's taking him so long for me to get an answer. So when he'll ask, I said, I don't know, because I generally, we don't know. We're not getting a yes, we're not getting a no. Certain things we ask for, we're not getting a response. Emails have gone unanswered for months and months and months and months. So he's getting more frustrated than probably me. I'm more focused on, because I still have to focus on running the business. So even this coming out here just taking away from my time from doing the business stuff I need to do, doing deliveries, planning stuff out for next week and things like that. So, he's getting really frustrated. I'm getting a bit frustrated now too, just because of how long it's taking.
Can I maybe ask, and forgive me, I like to learn, right? And but from the business perspective, there seem to be two things here. One, you're losing money, right? If your business can't expand, but two, it's potentially saying to as an investor, entrepreneur, well, I may as well put my money in something else because I can get a better return, a faster return. But then to that prospective employee that you want to hire or person that you want to encourage, again, I'm just thinking of it from two perspectives. If you plant a tree and you want it to bear fruit, it has to be sometime. Some things grow quickly, some things take a while. But if you get an education experience, you can't get it, this morning and by sunset. I'm just, unless that has changed too.
The thing is, Dwayne, with this, when we put this together, right, literally, we sat down in a room, doing all the pros and cons, figuring out what could be, what couldn't be, checking the laws, checking the regulations, checking the policies. So we ticked all the boxes. I said that before, right? So then we asked ourselves where we want to be, what do we want to provide, how can we provide that, and provide it in a manner that, number one, we're not going to gouge any Caymanian or anybody that live on the island eyes out for food, right, because everybody need it. So we want to set it out at a cost that is reasonable for everyone, and I mentioned this before, with equality, right? Number two, we wanted to be able to get one of these farms, and we've asked about this, in the schools, so we can begin to teach our children how to get into this field, because this is simply the future. Why do we always have to be last in this kind of stuff in Cayman? I don't know, it's beyond me, right? So we've went to UCCI, we've offered to say this is what we can do. We can get this in the schools. We can be able to teach kids how to do this. We get one of these in the school. We can teach them. We can get them up to par. Mr. Whitaker here, James, can teach the solar side of it. I think he already do that in the schools now anyway.
Yeah, we teach a course at UCCI.
Right, so we pair these two things together, right, so that we can be able to teach our kids. Okay, so if you have any child or any kid that is willing to learn this, right, because mind you, we're not saying that we want to be the only one in Cayman doing this here. Okay? If you feel that you need to do this, come on out and do it. Because the more food we have, the more we're looking to have food security in the island. That goes a vast scale and trying to get there. Right?
It's something that, as you shared, I'm thinking of, right? But
okay, so we turned all these things over. Then we went on and I asked Cody before the break to read out some of our goals, our sustainability goals that we are meeting with the same goals the government want to meet, and the same goals that are in the policy, and the same goals that are in off-reg policy. Right, so we've ticked all these boxes, right? And Cody can read out all these goals, and we ticked all these boxes. So when we sat down and looked at this, to me, I mean, I figured it would kind of be a no-brainer. They'd look at it. Everybody would come and look at it. James warned me.
I warned you.
He warned me.
I told you.
And I said, James, I don't believe you. It cannot be, because we taken all these boxes. Every person from government that come there, everybody we show the facility to say, this is great, this is a great idea, I love this, I support this. Well, you need to put your money where your mouth is now, right, and do something about it. Okay, simple as that. Do something about it. A year later, we're still having the same discussion over one decision.
I've got proposals that have been sitting on Ofreg's desk for 5 years
You see, Jane,
that I don't have any answers to.
Well, if to be honest with you, if this is not incompetent, right, that we're paying these people for, I don't know what is, right? And if you have complaints over and over from different entities saying that something is wrong, why are we going now and we're not doing anything about it? Government after government, minister after minister, the MPs now after MP, I suppose, right? Looking at this situation and saying zero about it. We have an issue. Sort it out. That's what you paid to do, right? You paid to sort these issues out, to make Caymanian lives better, right? To make the young generation lives better, right? Unless we and our age group help our younger generation, where are they going to end up? Right? We need to pave this path and have it open for these guys to be able to do something and give them opportunities and make sure they have the opportunities, right? Okay? All we ask for is the opportunity to do this. We're not asking for any monopoly as CUC have. That's not what we're asking for. We ask for an opportunity to be able to supply the island with the food and clean energy, right? Okay? And if you can find, and end up Cayman and can find something wrong with that, please call in and tell me. Okay, I'll leave my number for you guys at the end of it, and if you want to know anything about the system, and I asking you guys that are listening for your support in this, and support Cody and support James, support myself in this project. If you want to know anything about it, come and ask. I'll give you a tour. I'll give you a overview of exactly what we plan to do. Ask the politicians about it. Ask them what they're doing about it. This only benefits us and the whole of Cayman in the long run. Right? If you look around the world now, you have food shortages. The other day they had in the UK, no tomatoes. Okay, yeah. This is going to happen over and over and over again, right? Because of climate change, because of these different things, it's going to happen. Let us not be in the position where we're not taking care of people and can't, because a ship can't come in or whatever the case may be. What if you can read out some of those goals?
So I just pulled it up on my phone before I forget, because there's a lot that we cover.
Yeah.
So there's 17 sustainable development goals. So what the project covers itself is good health and well-being.
And these are the UN sustainable
UN
goals, right?
That
so
government bases their policy.
And these are ones that we cover on that.
Right.
Yeah. So good health and well-being. We're creating clean produce, giving it at an affordable price. Quality education. We're teaching the youth how to farm in this type of way. Decent work and economic growth. I believe once this project comes online, it would be the first in Cayman that's doing this type of thing. So it's a new work field, new opportunities for different people. And tagging along with solar, that's another developing field as well. So the two go hand in hand. Affordable and clean energy, that's strictly to do with the solar. And then we'll be powering our farms with 100% clean energy. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. This project champions that with the floating solar. A lot of engineering behind that, the indoor farming, a lot of innovation behind that. Reduce inequality. So many people get it confused that we're trying to do this for a ton of money, but we're actually just trying to produce produce that's affordable to everyone. So the same produce I'll give the Ritz-Carlton or any of the other chefs is the same stuff you can buy in the store. There's no different. So we've had situations where chefs have asked me to grow more specific things that I know the local consumers wouldn't buy, and they'll pay a premium for it. But as a company, that's not one of our goals. Sustainable cities and communities. We're basically building a sustainable future by increasing our food security, so we don't really have to rely on outside sources. Responsible consumption and production. So we're using and growing what we need. So we're only using the amount of energy we need. We're selling the excess. And then for growing, because of the scalability of the containers, I can grow exactly what I need, so I minimize my waste. And then climate action, climate change is happening all around the world. And the rest of the goals don't really pertain to us as a project, but for example, life below water, which have to do with marine life, life on land. We can touch on life on land because we're saving a lot of acres of land because we're not clearing anything, we're just reusing the lake. We have peace and justice and strong institutions. So the rest of the goals our project doesn't touch on, but majority of the goals there our project touches on.
Very viable, very attainable.
James, you mentioned something just now, and I'll touch on it again. You said, you kind of asked the question, all this time, it's a matter of also businesses losing money. I can tell you the evidence shows from history that Ofreg does not care about businesses losing money in the sectors that they regulate. They do care about the utilities losing money, but they do not care. And the reason I say that is I've watched them make decisions that they know will result in job losses, in companies going out of business, and they've made those decisions anyway, right? I've asked the head of Ofrex Energy, how do you expect businesses to employ people and stay working if you're going to shut them down for a year at a time? And his response to me, his two responses were, well, you should go do solar in another island, and I don't give business advice. That's the head of your regulator, the head of energy, right? So you raising that as a concern, I can tell you the evidence shows that they do not care about that.
How much does the off-rate cost the country every year? I mean, salaries and all other stuff that we spend on them.
I FOI'd the top 3 guys because I needed to know how much money they make in between the 3 of them. It was over $500,000, and they were shutting entire industries down for about $180,000 worth of subsidies. So I said, well, all we need to do is fire one of these guys, and then that should take care of the subsidy. But the answer is millions of dollars. I don't know what the exact budget figure is, but the answer is millions of dollars. And look, I can sit here and beat up on Ofreg all day. I was actually, and still am, a big advocate for the regulator, right? I have been all over the Caribbean. I've done business around other islands. It is a good thing to have a regulator, but you need a competent regulator, right? It can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. So I'm in favor of having Ofreg. I'm in favor of having a regulator. I know people probably think it's the opposite, but actually I'm in favor of it. And structurally, what you also have to realize in there, it's like, Ofreg has a board, and those are, good people, intelligent people. They've done things in, outside in the real world. But when you put this sort of amalgamation of all these utilities, and you've got to be experts in all of these things, right? Nobody on that board knows anything about energy, right? But they'll make their best common sense judgments on the information that's put before them. So then that falls down to senior management to feed them that information. Well, the senior management don't know nothing about energy. You look at the resumes, and I'm making it up. Some of them don't know the difference between a solar panel and a solar water heater, but yet they're in charge of transitioning the whole country to renewable energy. Then you look at the middle management. They know very little about energy. So it would be the equivalent of SEMA having people in there that know about plumbing and electrical, trying to make, a proper regulation about finance. Structurally, Ofreg is a mess, right? And it's not. I've read the board reports, and I said this to not this current board, but the last board. I said, I understand why you made the decisions you made, even though I disagree with the decision. Because if you read this report coming from your management, how could you make any other decision? But this report is wrong. This report is factually inept. So what is the old saying? Garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And that's part of the problem. There's a competency issue. And that is why people ask me all the time, it's not as if Cayman is corrupt and there's payoffs and all that. Why this big reliance on certain entities? Because that's who they rely on for all of their expertise. You've seen it yourself. Yeah. What was the first answer that Ofreg gave to Primitive when you put in that application?
Well, the first answer we got...
go talk to CUC.
Yeah, go talk to CUC. And then
why would we go talk to CUC? That was my question to them.
Yeah.
What we have requested from you, and I had to copy and paste sections of the law, and we said, this is your job. We have to go and negotiate a PPA with CUC. But what we've applied to you here for has nothing to do with CUC. It has everything to do with you. But again, that was their first thing. Go see if Big Brother is okay with it. And if he's okay with it, then we'll be okay with it. So this is part of the problem. There's a huge reliance on particularly CUC as from the energy perspective, and there's not enough expertise. At the end of the day, a very good regulator don't listen to James and the industry, and don't listen to CUC. They'll take on board, but they'll make up their own minds based on their own expertise, right? So they're supposed to be the referee. But if you don't have the expertise to understand energy storage, understand grid stability, right?
You can't make a decision.
You can't make decisions, right? And they're not going to rely on me in industry because we're very critical of them. So who are they going to rely on?
So in knowing all this, okay, from James' experience, okay, we researched everything prior to putting this application in front of them. So they literally had almost no decision to make because it's all in front of them, right? All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, okay? So we took that out of the equation for them to make a decision. It aligns with the policy, it aligns with the laws, it aligns with everything that you in about everything that you say. If you read off goals and everything that you say is in here.
All right. Well, let's take this break, and then we come back. We'll continue. Thanks for your time.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
J and Money touching down again. Now you can send your US dollars at any location on island, including the BRAC. It's easy. Just walk with your US dollars. No need to convert to CI. This is another convenient service available at J and Money. They always find a way to make it easier and hassle-free. So remember, when you need to send your money and you only have US dollars, don't ever think of what to do. Just head straight to any J&M Money location and send your money the fast, convenient, and affordable J&M Money. J&M Money, touching down again. J&M Money, ranga to la friend.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Are you a Caymanian job seeker searching for employment? All jobs, whether full-time, part-time, temporary, or permanent, will be required to advertise on the Jobs Cayman portal. Visit work.ky. That's WORC.ky to start your job search to see all available jobs or to apply. For assistance in registering or to learn more, call toll-free 1-800-534-9672 or customer care at 945-9672. 945-9672 today.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad had taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to James Whitaker. So thanks to Carol Lawrence and Cody. Thank you very much. With respect to you, we have one of our listeners, and I just read to you what was shared. Says, ask Cody, does government have a job equivalent to Cody's degree? That is a job to offer him that would be equivalent. My thing is, you got a job, but you're an entrepreneur, not an employee. But talk to me. I mean, I want to know where you employed, but
yeah. So the co-founder and co-operator of Primitive Greens. I don't think the government would have a direct job for me, given that we're pushing innovation. This would be the first project of its kind in Cayman. Closely, it would be the first project of its kind in the world once we get solar online. But the job scene wasn't for me. So when I graduated in 2019, it was deciding what I wanted to do. Fortunately for me, I had the opportunity where I could take the risk and say, okay, this is something I want to do. And then a lot of young people face that, where they're not in the same circumstance I was in, where they can just, go take the risk. Maybe they had to take care of their family, brothers and sisters, or contribute to the household. Unfortunately for me, my parents were, up there with what they needed to do. I got the opportunity. I just took the risk.
Yeah.
So it's a difference between, you know, going into the job field, which most people do 9 to 5. Well, a lot of young Cayman is what they called it in the parliamentary 5 to 9 now. That's what they say.
What the speaker say? He don't want to interfere with their nocturnal activities.
Yes, 5 to 9. But no, I just went on the entrepreneurial route. I had a lot of influences, and that's just what I decided to do for myself. It's not meant for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that or take that type of risk. So that's just where I'm at right now. But thanks for the message.
Well, if I may ask, James, to both you and Kerry, I believe it exists everywhere, but it's certainly innate within the Cayman psyche, that entrepreneurial nature. Yeah, some was very early in school, you know, we sold different things. We have that entrepreneurial nature, and we want to, you know, paddle our own canoe, sail our own catboat. It's one thing to be an employee, is one thing to, you know, beat your own path. I commend Cody, I commend the opportunity for this. But Cayman has been innovative. We look at the shipbuilding industry. I hope he doesn't mind. I commend him all the time. Joel Walton, as head of, you know, maritime, the expertise he has, the respect and the high regard he's held internationally. Okay, he's a farmer as well, son of the soil. But to be able to speak to, you know, our seafaring heritage, the industriousness, the innovation, for our people to leave here and, you know, little formal education and then come back as captains and chief engineers, or irrespective of the qualification, they were industrious. They must have been innovative. They must have had a strong sense of discipline.
The thing is, Dwayne, if you go down the line, right, Cayman has said a lot of things. And a lot of things Cayman says are right, but they would never listen to.
Yeah.
7 Mile Beach, same thing. Don't build seawalls. Build seawalls, beach disappearing, right? Caymanian said that,
yeah.
Okay? So these are things that happen. So we need to break that chain. Okay? Now, this discussion between Cody and us happened before he was out of college. I literally said to Cody, listen, what do you want to do when you come out of college? What are you going to do when you come back here? Do you want to come back here? He wasn't sure. So I said, well, here what you do. Let us sit down while you're in college. Let us figure out what is a something for you to do. So every time he came home, we discussed it, we talked, figured out, and then we said, this is what we're going to do. So I said, Cody, you know something? We're going to plan it. As soon as you graduate, I'm going to fly up there, I'm going to watch you graduate, and we're going to action this plan. And here we are today.
Yeah.
Action a plan that's well thought out. Okay, and if anybody have any negatives about it, please call me and let me know. As I said, I'm going to leave my number at the end of the program so you can call me. Okay? And let us know what the negatives are, right? And we'll go through them. If you don't understand the project, we can educate you on the project, as we intend to try to have either a live stream that people can log online and ask questions and hear about the project and get the public opinion, right? Because the public need to get involved with these kind of things, because it also benefits you guys. It benefits the public to have this sort of development in Cayman. Right, it benefits all of us, right? So this is the kind of thing that we are leaning towards now, which we shouldn't really have to be doing this kind of stuff, because we have people there that can make decisions and can do these things and are paid to do this and to take care of us, right? And it's just seat warmers we're getting into.
I think another important thing to say too is that, you know, as part of our submission to OFREG, we have to actually provide financial performance. So they got to, you know, we can't just go and build a solar system. And so we have to provide financial performance to show them what it costs, how much money we're making, all of that stuff. And so OFREG knows that there's no giant financial windfall coming from us selling, you know, this solar back to them, especially at half the cost of diesel. If they want to pay us more for it, we'll be happy to take it, but that's not what we're asking for. So, you know, there's a stack of pros and cons to everything in life, right? But when you look at Primitive and you stack up all of the pros, the cons are next to nothing, right? And there's really only 1 or 2 entities in the country at this point that it seems does not want to see the project go forward. And, you know, it's the vast majority do.
All right. Let's take one call before we go to the news. Hey, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, Sterling. How are you?
Oh, excellent. How are you?
All right, bro. I'm good. Afternoon, Mr. panel.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah, I couldn't help but just had to call in and when the gentleman there was speaking about their children into schools and coming out and having the opportunity to get these jobs. That has been a problem here, especially in the back for decades, and it looks like it's not going to stop because my father used to say, when the elder don't want to step aside for the young to learn and to get engaged with what's happening, they're not going to be a follow-up or learning process of anything. I can take, for instance, my own children. I sent two to college and spent both of them together, 100,000 plus, and come back and they got begged for them to get a job. It's sad in a sense, in many ways, for many people, because it's look like a trend that will lead on to a long period of time because of how things are laid out in the system. And I go back to that word system because that's what it tells you every time you call them. But I just want to mention that in this issue with the solar. We have one company here that we have to rely on for power. And one lady came to my house this morning to visit me regarding how much her income is monthly. She can barely pay for her rent, for her little car on the road, out of $900, her food, her water. And she's struggling. And a lot of people in that same retirement situation is struggling. I am retired, and I struggled for years under the same thing. When this issue of solar come into effect here on the BRAC, things is going to go through the roof, and people are not going to be able to be able to feed their families. How are we going to feed our families when the government is looking out for what's coming into their pocket with these entities that building up these companies and not worrying about the people?
Yeah. It goes further sometimes, and I mean, you're talking about your kids that went away to college and looking for a job, right? But you have plenty of kids that came out of college and don't really want a job and want to be entrepreneurs and want to have their own things here in Cayman. But the roadblocks in front of them are tremendous, right? And we push them down and not giving them support as an entity as Cayman, right? What do we expect them to do? Mm-hmm. And that's an issue.
Right. We do have our news, James. Let us just take that. If you want, you can continue. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
His Excellency Governor Martin Roper makes his last visit to Little Cayman. While there, Governor Roper spoke at a community event, visited the Central Caribbean Marine Institute to see a lionfish dissection, and undertook a farewell tour of the island. Turning to international news now, genetic material collected at a Chinese market near where the first human cases of COVID-19 were identified show raccoon dog DNA commingled with the virus, suggesting the pandemic may have originated from animals, not a lab, international experts say. Other experts have not yet verified their analysis, which is yet to appear in a peer-reviewed journal. How the coronavirus began sickening people remains uncertain. The sequences will have to be matched to the genetic record of how the virus evolved to see which came first. Lawyers for Prince Harry asked a judge Friday to rule that a tabloid newspaper libeled the British royal with an article about his quest for police protection when he and his family visit the UK. Harry is suing Mail on Sunday, publisher Associated Newspapers Limited, over an article alleging he tried to hush up his separate legal challenge over the British government's refusal to let him pay for police security. During a hearing at the High Court in London, Harry's lead attorney asked Judge Matthew Nicken either to strike out the publisher's defense or to deliver a summary judgment, which would be a ruling in the prince's favor without going to trial. And Jacqueline Gold, who helped make lingerie and sex toys a female-friendly mainstream business as head of Britain's Ann Summers chain, has died, her family said Friday. She was 62 and had been diagnosed with breast cancer 7 years ago. Gold's family said she died on Thursday with close family by her side. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shana Gallego.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
Ro Variety, centrally located in Tropical Plaza on Smith Road, carrying a wide range of household items, bathroom accessories, towels, clocks, handbags, clothes, shoes, jewelry, and more, and more, and more. You can buy from the big box retailers or support local. The better deals come from shopping local. Ro Variety Store, Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Telephone 924-9553.
Things come up. That's life. But it doesn't mean I can't show up. From a runny nose, stubbed toes, to earache woes, headaches, backaches, and tummy aches. When things come up, Best Health Pharmacy over-the-counter solutions get you back in the game. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor. Best Health Pharmacy, your health, your convenience is their priority. Best Health Pharmacy also offers free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to I think we'll do it this way. We'll say quarter biblical. Thank you for coming in and sharing with us, because as you said at the outset, maybe the face of the farmer in Cayman, we see and we know the names. I think to the callers to the line, to Mr. Chanlop on the back, we look at others here, and we see how farming is hot sun, physical. It's demanding, it's taxing. And then, Caroline's to you and James Whitaker, the notion that we can be innovative, industrial leaders, trendsetters, we can do something that shows what Caymanians is, what is possible in Cayman if we're willing to collaborate.
I mean, on this, right, we have Turks and Caicos that wanting us to help them out and do what we're doing over there. Mm-hmm. I've been speaking to Montserrat, because they're in a situation to do something for them over there, to help them out, how to set it up, how to do. So we're lending all our expertise out, and that was the idea anyway. Every Caribbean island's in the same situation that we are in. Okay, we can be the footprint, the stellar one, to be able to show the rest of these islands what you can do. This is what you can do for your people. This is how you cover these bases for your people, right? Mm-hmm. And what I want Cody to do now is expound on the stuff that we can provide, right? Mm-hmm. In order for our vegetables and how we can do it.
So, I'll skip that one. But to touch on that, it's not just the Caribbean. So I don't like to talk about it a lot, but the company that we do use to buy our container farms, they use me for literally anybody who's trying to do it at scale. So I've talked to people in Singapore, Hawaii. I had a call this week with guys in Canada, Florida. So it's not just Cayman. So they're using us as an example on how this can be done in other areas of the world.
We do have that, the caller, and thanks to hanging on. But and Cody, this is perhaps something that is also innate in us, that sense of humility. We don't brag, maybe, but for the few politicians who are my cousins, right? We do things quietly, we share freely, but what you're saying and the bridges and interactions you're having with countries and people across the globe, that is remarkable. Yeah. Anybody else would be singing, praises, and we see them here. I mean, we got some mutts here that really don't have anything to offer, but because they come from somewhere, we celebrate them.
Well, I mean, that shows the magnitude of our plan for them to want to show it to other people. Yeah. Okay, so you have to call it lines.
Yeah, James, thanks for holding on.
Yes, they mentioned in there about the agriculture. Yeah, my Murch was my father-in-law. Mm-hmm. And for years, I mean, he, tried to help me to encourage farming, to take it back from me. My father had left me with farming. So we had into it and pick it up in the I am today with it. But I am still waiting for help from the agriculture department for help with my farm on the bluff. And I lost a lot of stuff on the bluff that I was cultivating. And the thing about it is, when people have to do like for instance, what the gentleman was saying there is to be entrepreneurs for themselves. If you ask me, here on this island, we have no incentives for people to become their own on this island. It's like a stumbling block. Like, people are being stumbling blocks to others trying to get something. I don't know what is the situation, and I don't know what's the reason for it. But if someone knows that you're trying to become something or do something on your own, they try to put a block there in the front of you so you don't continue to doing what you're doing. Like I said, I mean, I do a lot for myself, but when time comes for agriculture, anything you produce, you need the help. You need the help. And I went as far as asking for the assistance, which I don't like to behold to anyone, but you need help. And it would be good if I could get that kind of help from that department. I mean, I'm not disputing and I'm not throwing no one under the bus, but there are good people there that are willing to help. But so far, I have not received no help. I don't know what's the situation, whether they're waiting on government to finance something. I don't know what's the reason. It would be good that I could get some results back from what I asked for in the help. I think the minister said he was going to look into it, but I still haven't received no message or information yet.
All right.
But gentlemen, whatever you all are encouraging, I would encourage you all to push as hard as you can, that people in this country, our leaders, can go further in where they have went to help and encourage young Caymanians to try to keep themselves where they should be and fight for this island, in this country, these 3 islands, because we need our young children and we need our young people to keep on keeping on.
Well, what I'm going to ask for now, you see, what we want is we're asking for you strengthen numbers, right? So the more us Cayman get together, and if we get the numbers out there to show the politicians, show the leaders, this is what we need, this is what we stand for. So we're asking for numbers and support for this, because this support goes a long way. You start with supporting one person like Cody, and then next thing you know, it's a different person getting that same support, and on and on and on. Just support each other in order for us to get what we need. And our plan, just so you know, we didn't leave Cayman Brac out, so we also have a plan for Cayman Brac too, growing the stuff that you guys import, that you can get it cheaper there, because we came up there and looked at your vegetables and see what you had, and we know we can do it over in the Brac also, to make sure you guys have healthy product for a cheap price. It's expensive over there. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, man. Thanks very much, all right?
No problem.
Have a good weekend, Will.
You too.
And this is the encouraging part, James, but also the frustrating part. I was on a page with Kerry and Norbrina, but you seem to have the wisdom of the ages and say, boy, just because it looks easy and it's practical.
Dean, I have sent proposals to that office. We say in industry, off reg is where good ideas go to die. Right? I mean, it's sad to say that, but that's a talking point.
Oh, that was a joke.
No, that's a talking point amongst us in the local industry here.
Oh, my.
And, you know, it's a sad indictment, because, you know, at the end of the day, who loses? I think we lose as a country, right? But the point I'm making is we've sent proposals there, and we don't just send proposals. I mean, I can only speak for our organization. We don't send proposals unless we thoroughly think them out. That doesn't necessarily mean they're absolutely perfect, but we try to look at all sides. We try to make sure that nobody loses, that there's an alignment there. And so, you know, there's proposals about providing 100% financing to consumers, leasing rooftops. So that person called in and said, you know, what is this lady going to do when they retire? Well, if she got a rooftop, if the regulations were as we recommend them to be, I could come to her house and say, look, I'm going to put all this solar panel on your roof. You don't have to pay me $1. I'm going to pay all of it. We're going to get $400 a month. You keep $200, I keep $200. That is blocked in Cayman.
Yeah.
Why? I can tell you why, but I think you can probably guess why, right? But there's all of these proposals, and there's stuff that's been sitting on their desk for years. Community solar. If you live in an apartment and you can't have solar on your roof because you don't own a roof, you can still own a solar system. You can own 20 panels out of those 2,000 panels that are sitting on those warehouse rooftops or in a field somewhere, and you can get the solar credits off of that. And with the 100% finance, it wouldn't cost you anything. why is all of that stuff not approved? That stuff been sitting on the desk for years.
But
right?
A question.
So when we talk through the primitive thing, yes, we ticked all the boxes, but I've been here before where we've ticked the boxes.
Well, I can't say, Dwayne, I was warned.
Yeah.
More than once, too.
Apparently. But I commend you for being courageous and tenacious.
Well, it was hard for me to believe, number one, that we can go in there and put a proposal as such, right? And get roadblocks in the magnitude that we're getting it. And it's not roadblocks to say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay? It's roadblocks that absolutely makes no sense.
Right. But can I ask, right? First, Cody, with respect, don't answer if you're not comfortable. Forgive me. I'm just thinking down the road. Individually as families, we see the government, and I commend our governments for spending what seems to be lots and lots of money on education, including further education, right? Beyond high school and the like. But if a young person has a vision, has an ambition, a passion, an ability, and A, can pursue that in another jurisdiction, because B, it's not available to Cayman, we're at a serious risk of not just a brain drain, but dislodging and displacing our people. That's a real concern.
Yeah, that's completely true. To be honest with you, the only reason I'm here is because I had this opportunity. So I got accepted to do my master's degree in the States. I held off on that to come and do this, just because I was so passionate about this. And, you can always go and do your master's. Education is not going to change. So there was an opportunity for me to stay in the U.S., get a worker's visa, do some internships there, et cetera, and also I was bound by my government contract to come back. So I think it's about whatever you spend, the amount of time you spend on your degree, so it's about 4 years.
Yeah.
I have to come back, contribute to the community, and work.
But we're not talking about just you or anyone else being seconded and getting work experience elsewhere. I believe that's important. You were very modest and humble. Singapore, Canada, the U.S., different jurisdictions. Hey, come and do this, right? You probably make more money.
Well,
There's a bigger world.
That started, right?
Yeah.
The reason that started because simply the Primitive Greens Project.
Yeah.
That begat from the Primitive Greens Project, because everybody else around the world that we tell and show our project to want to know how they can do it in their community. Yeah. And they're speaking to Cody on a daily basis on how we can get there, how they can get there to do it. Okay? So we have that kind of outreach from other jurisdictions, and we have a Caymanian here, born and raised here, right? Can't go anywhere else, right? Willing to do these things, and he never expounded on, and I told him to in the break. Right? I wanted to expound on where we see this thing going with teaching the kids and growing the food and where it's going to go to.
Yeah, so you watch the video.
Yeah.
That's where we see it, but on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So right now we're just small because we're constrained with the solar. So the solar is holding us back from hiring extra people. I get maybe an email every 1 or 2 weeks about somebody who's young, who's interested, who's in school, who wants to either internship or come and work, learn about the system. But I have to tell them that we're held up with solar.
You can't.
There's nothing more I can do. So the size that this can get to, so imagine we're 70,000 people now, maybe we'll hit the 100,000. That's a lot of people to feed. That's a lot of job opportunities. That's a lot of learning for people who are interested in agriculture. And that's just not one set thing. The things that we are growing, for example, mushrooms, it's a whole different growing process than you'd be growing lettuces, even berries and stuff. That's a whole different growing process. Different things like that. You can also get into, like Kerry said, the fodder, growing livestock. You can do shrimps, different types of fish, anything like that. It's a whole expansive thing where you can cover the full thing you need for food security. So it's not just, we're growing high-end lettuce to sell to restaurants.
Yeah.
It covers
and
a
we
wide
also
range of stuff.
Looking in our whole plan. The reason we wanted these in the schools, Dwayne, so I'll say this so you can understand and so your listeners can understand. The reason we wanted it in the schools is this. Number one, we said we could put it in the schools, we can train our kids how about the technology, how to grow. Two, the stuff that they grow. We would like to take the stuff that they grow and give it to people like the food bank who need the food anyway, who are giving people food that can't get, healthy food because it's too expensive, right? Give this to the food bank so these kids will have the experience in growing it, turning around and taking care of people that is in need, right? Okay, so they getting that, they have that touch and feel that this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to grow it. We're going to give it to these people that in need of food. If the Cancer Society needs it, they can have it because they're coming from the school. So anybody that is in need, right? We wanted the kids to grow it, and anybody that's in need, we provide that food to them free of cost because the kids are learning and they can get it for free.
But you also provide the employment and the skill set, the training.
Yeah, exactly. And we also offer that this thing can also go in a place like Northwood Prison. They can provide their own stuff up there also.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they can't do it there. They can have the prisoners there running a farm and producing all the stuff that they need in there.
Yeah.
Right? So it goes on and on and on, and we've covered all these bases. We've said all these things. Right? So I'll just say this now. We've had, and I'll call her out because I think she's been a great help. She got us a cabinet. She got us in front of cabinet, and that's Sabrina Turner, right? So she answers my call when I call, and she hear my woes, and she hear that when I have issues, and she's the one that got us a cabinet and got us in front of cabinet. But she's done what she can do right now, right? And I know she's advocating a voice for us to get this thing through. But I don't understand what the stumbling block is with the rest of members and why we haven't got this push forward. I do not understand, and I'd like to know what it is, right? Because sometimes when I call or answer or I see them and I say something, I get radio silence, right? But I need to know where we're going with it, right? And where do you see it? If you have an issue with it, right, tell me what the issue is so we can work through it and get this thing done.
All
right.
All right, let's take the final quick break. When we come back, we'll conclude our discussion. Stay tuned, please.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020. Row Variety, centrally located in Tropical Plaza on Smith Road, carrying a wide range of household items, bathroom accessories, towels, clocks, handbags, clothes, shoes, jewelry, and more, and more, and more. You can buy from the big box retailers or support local. The better deals come from shopping local. Row Variety Store, Tropical Plaza, Smith Road. Telephone 924-9553.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Hey, Bill, glad to see you back in the office.
Who?
Bill.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think you're mistaking me for someone else.
Tom.
Nope.
Jack.
No.
Alex.
No. Want me to just tell you?
Nope, I got this, George.
No, you don't. Still not me.
Adam.
Not even close, man.
We're like a coworker that didn't forget your name. CG Britke. Good like that.
Okay, good to see you, Mike John Sean.
It's Mordecai.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. And gents, thanks for spending the afternoon. I'm hoping that this will do a number of things. Encourage more of us to be innovative, industrious, entrepreneurial, but also maybe ask questions as to why sometimes things don't always run. As we wrap up the discussion, James, perhaps start with you for some salient points in recapping.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I would say is, we touched on it a little bit, but, when this project moves forward, you're going to find people from around the region and around the world that are going to come and look at what we've done here. And that's a real thing. That's not hyperbole, right?
But we saw the Turks minister and foreign secretary.
And so you're going to, Cayman talks about innovation, and we want to be a destination of excellence. And we talk about all these things, which is good, and we support all those things, but we do a lot of talking, and there's not a lot of doing, right? And so I think that's the overriding thing, is that this project is very good for the Cayman Islands. It's going to be, a project that other countries are going to look at and say, how can we replicate that? And that should be the kinds of things that Cayman wants to be doing. But if all we're going to do is sit here and get in our way, and from a regulatory perspective, try to find reasons not to do it, well then, the guys coming after Primitive, wanting to do something similar, maybe in a different field, you think they're going to really look at what Primitive has gone through for a year and a half and say, you know what, let's go to Jamaica or let's go to somewhere else and do this. We saw what happened. I mean, I looked at what happened to OTEC. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I pushed back so hard when all Ofreg did was tell Kerry and them to go talk to CUC was because I saw them do it to OTEC. And I know that that's a nonsensical way to do it, right? Ofreg has to decide the key things on a preliminary basis. Am I even in approval of this rate? Am I even in approval of the business? Why are you going to make somebody go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for years trying to negotiate, PPAs, and you don't approve the project from the beginning? You're not supportive of the project from the beginning. So, there has to be a better, clearer path for innovation. We're sort of helping to blaze a trail here, but other people have tried before and unfortunately failed. And I don't think that we will fail, but at the end of the day, we do need, as Kara said, we do need the support from the higher ups to push this project forward.
Mm-hmm. I would like to say, I would like the government to do what they're supposed to do for the Cayman people and see this project forward as it benefits them. And if they have any issues with the project, come out and say so, whether it be publicly or privately. Send it to me, we can answer them. Right? Mm-hmm. If you have a fault with it, let me know. Let's straighten it out. Let's get it done.
What's that number to touch base with?
916-0497. 916-0497. Had the same number for years and never changed. Another thing I'd like to say, if CUC also is really for the people, they should want to see a project like this come forward. Okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to feed our people. We give them cleaner energy for a cheaper price. And there's no reason why, if there's so much for the people, they wouldn't want to see a project like this go forward.
All right.
Okay.
Well, could we save the last comments too? But first, let's just take this quick call as we get to a discussion. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green. Good afternoon to the wonderful gentlemen.
Afternoon, sir.
I just have very few words to say to you. You have explained everything. It's very, very been elucidated that any harpy, just like myself, can understand everything you're about to do. There is one thing holding it all back. That one word that great man said, Winston Spencer Churchill, courage. Courage on the part of our elected members of Parliament.
I 100% agree with you.
Day. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and keep trying. One day, they'll all wake up very, very soon and realize that that word has to be put into action. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. Cody?
Thank you guys for listening and giving us the opportunity to speak again. I think as the months and weeks go by, we'll be more on the radio, kind of letting out more information that we know that we can, to give people a full explanation of what's going on and what's at risk. So there's a lot of things that if the project does not get approved, what is OFREG saying no to, basically? So you're saying no to food security, you're saying no to innovation, you're saying no to the youth, you're saying no to affordable, clean energy, you're saying no to a list of a ton of things that are in their policy, and that doesn't make any sense. So with this, I urge the young people, reach out, keep sending me emails, reach out to your members of parliament, tell them that you're upset, tell them this is something you want. So there's not everybody's going to want to do farming. I know a few people who've started their own businesses. They're doing media, video production, different things like that. They see me getting pretty much bashed up from time to time, and it doesn't give them any confidence for the things that they want to do. So maybe not everybody is going to want to do something on a grand scale. They might want to do something smaller scale, but if they're seeing me getting treated this way, it doesn't give them any confidence. A lot of people, they do, when I do show them the container, they see what I'm doing, they do give me my kudos and they find inspiration from me. But it's not always easy all the time. There's days where we spend hours and hours and hours preparing presentations to present to different people, different members of government, doing all this stuff. So there's been a lot of stuff going on now where I'll get a phone call and they'll say, hey, can we come and see the container? So-and-so from this country wants to see the container. Okay, fine. After that, radio silence. We ask what's going on with our project. You're parading me around like I'm some showpiece, showing off innovation in Cayman, showing off what our young people are doing, showing off Cayman, and you're using me as the face of Cayman. But as everybody disappears, radio silence. And, that's not inspirational to anybody. It gets frustrating, yes, but luckily for me, I have a good support system. We keep pushing, but it's getting to that point now where everybody is just very lost and confused at what's going on.
Cody is...
And I would like to say, not only kids Cody age, I want to reach out to politicians. I want the parents of those kids and people that have children in school now that coming out and want them to do something. I reach out to your politicians. Let's make a change. Let's make something happen, right? Because it can happen to Cody. It's happening to him now. It's going to happen to your kid, maybe.
I think this is where we work together, right?
Exactly.
Maybe the comments that I have, I'll reserve them for the tank. I think Cody, you sit down. But thanks, as the last caller referenced, the courage you displayed, commend the tenacity, and perhaps after today we'll see, forward momentum in a positive direction. Gents, thanks very much.
Thank you
as
much.
well. All right, thanks very much for inviting us.
All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Join Mr. Art for the record Monday morning and come back for a talk today. Hey, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Six years.
3 beloved isles. 1 beloved station. Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
After all that talk,